to guide me further in taking India's economy in all its divergence and also the challenges, the newer challenges which are coming before us, literally by the day, and make sure that India continues to be the fastest growing economy. So thank you very much for coming here. I begin with a thanks, but I really do mean, because I feel very humbled to stand on the dais along with Professor Bhagwati and to be able to address. It requires a different kind of courage, but I take the challenge. Let me at the outset thank and congratulate N.K. Singh, President of the Indian Institute of Economic Growth, and Dr. Chetan Ghate, Director of the Institute of Economic Growth, for organizing this third edition of the Kautilya Economic Conclave, which begins today, and that brings together a galaxy of renowned scholars from around the world. This conclave provides an opportunity for the exchange of latest research and ideas on a host of issues that are engaging the attention of governments globally. Why the India story will provide a unique opportunity for thinking about policy, and it is that which I would want to expand on a bit. India's creditable economic performance in the recent decade was underscored by its leapfrog from the 10th to the 5th largest economy in a matter of 5 years. Sustained high growth rates and maintain inflation well within the comfortable range was the challenge before us, and we are performing to our best of abilities. While it took us 75 years to reach a per capita income of $2,730 as per IMF projections, it will take only 5 years to add another $2,000. The upcoming decades will see the steepest rise in living standards for the common man, truly making it a period-defining era for an Indian to live in. This is being achieved with declining inequality, as the Gini coefficient for rural India's numbers declined from 0.283 to 0.266. And for the urban areas, it declined from 0.363 to 0.314. I expect these improvements to continue as the effects of the last 10 years of economic and structural reforms manifest more thoroughly in the data in the coming years as the COVID shock fades away from the economy. The Kautilya Economic Conclave has become a congregation and a congregation event for policy experts in economics and finance. As India strives towards Vikasit Bharat, we require thought leaders and experts such as yourselves to guide policy making. From a policy standpoint, India's economic rise in the coming decades will be unique in a few ways. First, while India will continue to grow over the decade, the global backdrop is no longer the same. In the early 2000s, emerging markets like China grew relatively more easily due to a favorable global trade and investment climate. This poses a potential challenge and an opportunity for India, while simultaneously pushing for diplomacy and cooperation, as we did during our G20 presidency. India must develop its domestic capacity to grow and develop sustainably. Second, India seeks to double its per capita income in a matter of few years for its 1.4 billion population, which makes up about 18% of the global total. In a fragmented and fractured world, where several persistent conflicts may worsen, posing a threat to global peace that is the bedrock for prosperity. Third, the development journey will have to contend with the twin challenges of dealing with the legacy emissions of the developed world and managing India's energy transition. The balancing act requires a whole of government approach and contextualized solutions unique to India. Moreover, India's energy demand and energy use practices have something to offer to the world, such as the food to feed balance. Lastly, the advent of new technologies may leave a more lasting impact on labor, including workers at all levels, than previous industrial revolutions did. The resulting economic and social impacts may be more profound than the world has ever experienced. While this is a global phenomenon, it is more acute for India, given its vast young population and the need to create livelihoods for millions. It is also a question of the kind of society we wish to create that people gathered here and outside have to reflect upon. The forces that will shape the Indian era. From a domestic perspective, India's youthful population provides a large base for total factor productivity improvements, savings, and investment. While India's share of the young is set to rise over the next 2 decades, several other developing economies are past their demographic peak. A nation's greatest asset during its high growth years is a young population. India needs to ensure that they are cognitively equipped, emotionally strong, and physically fit. That is our core policy priority. Second, consumption will organically rise over the coming decade. As of now, 43% of Indians are younger than 24 years of age, and they have yet to explore their consumption behavior fully. There will be organic growth in consumption as they become full-fledged consumers. Simultaneously, a rising middle class will pave the way for strong consumption, inflow of foreign investment, and a vibrant marketplace. Third, India's innovation ability will mature and improve over the coming decades. As the Global Innovation Index for 2023 shows, India has been performing above the average in innovation for its income groups. There is a gradual maturing of innovation potential across sectors. We observe, for instance, a maturing of India's services sector exports and a rise in innovative potential within this sector. The global capability centers boom that we have seen today has put India squarely at the center of innovation. With nearly 56% of GCC's revenue coming from R&D services. Similarly, our low-cost scalable innovation is evident in India's stack, low-cost vaccines, and the much-celebrated Chandrayaan mission. Fourth, our financial system is well capitalized to fuel productive credit. India's financial market has evolved into a competitive system whose crisis management, regulatory management, and governance standards are at par with those of developed financial markets. At the same time, the Indian financial system has remained nimble to the growing needs of a developing India as it widened its scale and scope of financial inclusion. There has also been a sharp narrowing in the gaps in financial access, that is between rich and the poor, male and female, rural and urban, over the past decade. Fifth, India also finds itself amidst the global geopolitical repositioning effort which is going on. This repositioning can act as a structural force to India's advantage by creating robust supply chains with countries with strategic congruence. India benefits from the new international order, which is reshaping better to reflect the power distribution of today's world. The fiscal tools and policies to establish an era of growth. I'll spend a minute on it. The role of the government lies in unleashing the structural drivers of growth using effective governance through Jan Bhagidari. With sound economic policies and strategic planning forming the cornerstone of the growth process. I outlined some key areas of the government's focus that continue laying the groundwork for Vikasit Bharat. Our government continues to uphold its commitment to reducing the fiscal deficit. Aided by buoyant revenue generation, restrained revenue expenditure growth, and healthy economic activity, the fiscal deficit is estimated to decline further from 5.6% of GDP in FY24, I'm basing on provisional actuals, to 4.9% in FY25. The commitment to fiscal discipline will not only help keep bond yields in check, but will translate to lower economy-wide borrowing costs. The quality of government expenditure continues to improve. Capital expenditure is budgeted to increase by 17.1% to 11.1 lakh crores this fiscal. This amounts to 3.4% of GDP in FY25. Additionally, a larger proportion of fiscal deficit is now accounted for by capital outlays, indicating an increasingly investment-oriented deficit financing. The decline in commodity prices has facilitated the lowering of the budget allocation for subsidies on fertilizer and fuel. This has contributed to restraining the growth in revenue expenditure, which is estimated to increase by 6.2% year-on-year. To ensure policy continuity, the bedrock of sustained growth, our government has initiated and sustained reforms across infrastructure, banking, trade policy, investment, and ease of doing business. Infrastructure reforms over the past decade have expanded the national highways, increasing by 1.6 times from 2014 to 2024. The Bharatmala Pariyojana has significantly expanded the national highway network, increasing the length of high-speed corridors by 12 times and 4-lane roads by 2.6 times in the 10 years between 2014 and 24. Today, 11.7 kilometers of national highway roads are laid on an average per day, which is 3 times more than what was the case before FY14. India's ports have also made remarkable strides over the past decade and are now at par or even better and above international players. The economic survey this year reported that port turnaround time has dropped by 50% between 2014 and 24. Currently, the median turnaround time for Indian ports is at 0.9 days, better than the US's 1.5 days, Australia's 1.7 days, and Singapore's 1 day. Such substantial advancements in logistics efficiency are reflected in India's sharp ascent in the World Bank's Logistics Performance Index from 54 in 2014 and 44 in 2018 to 38 in 2023. The soundness and resilience of India's banking sector have been underpinned by sustained policy focus on asset quality improvements, enhanced provisioning for bad loans, sustained capital adequacy, and a rise in profitability. NPA ratios are at a multi-year low, and banks have now efficient debt recovery mechanisms. Ensuring that the financial system stays healthy and the cycle lasts longer is another of our core policy priorities. Trade policy reform has focused on trade facilitation and integrating deeper with nations close geopolitically to us, and in this we are in line with the Foreign Trade Policy 2023. Exporters today find it easier to facilitate their trade compared to a decade ago. This is evident from India's achievement of 93.5% in 2023 in the UN Global Survey on Trade Facilitation. In addition, a deep free trade agreement or several deep free trade agreements with partners such as UAE, Australia and the EFTA region, a clustered approach to developing export hubs is also being pursued through schemes such as Make in India and districts as export hubs. Investment reform and ease of doing business are central to this government's policy of minimum government and maximum governance. The government has pursued a multi-pronged policy of regulation to reduce investment costs and improve efficiency. We have pursued the deregulation and simplification of labor codes, rolled out the GST, the RERA Act, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, and FDI liberalization across sectors. Innovation and rapid advancement in total factor productivity are required in Amrit Kal. Taking cognizance of this fact, for the year FY24, that is, budget allocated 1,200 crore rupees to research and development projects. Further research and development brought forth by a collaboration between academia, the private sector, and government bodies remains key to tapping innovation in the country. Recognizing this, we have set up the Anusandhan Research Fund to seed and promote research across academic institutions, R&D, laboratories, and the academia. Ultimately, the largest stakeholders and beneficiaries of the growth process towards Vikasit Bharat will be the four major castes, namely the Garib or the poor, Mahilaye or the women, Yuva, the youth, and Annadata, the farmer. Accordingly, the budget in Amrit Kal will be devised with these stakeholders in mind. In conclusion, the Indian era is not a phenomenon is not a new phenomenon if we look at the civilizational history of the subcontinent. For 1,000 years, India has created a cultural sphere of philosophy, polity, science and art which spread across borders, not through conquests, but through its cultural magnificence. During this period, the rest of the world benefited from India's soft power. By 2047, as India crosses the 100-year mark of independence from imperial rule, the Vikasit Bharat will assure prosperity not just to Indians, but to the rest of the world. By becoming central to the vibrant exchange of ideas, technology, and culture. I hope the deliberations in the next few days will be vigorous, stimulating, and fruitful. And I hope that overseas scholars carry pleasant and happy memories when they return home. I wish the conference success and look forward to the deliberations. Thank you very much.
तो आप देख रहे थे कौटिल्या इकोनॉमिक इंक्लेव, जहां पर वित्त मंत्री साहिबा का संबोधन था। बहुत अहम बातें उन्होंने यहाँ कही हैं, एक बार वो आपसे साझा करें फिर आगे बढ़ेंगे। यहाँ उन्होंने साफ तौर पर कहा कि आर्थिक विकास के साथ जब हम महंगाई दर को काबू करने की बात करते हैं तो इन्हें साथ में लेकर चलना एक बहुत कठिन निर्णय होता है। हालांकि देश में जो आर्थिक विकास के साथ तमाम जो असमानताएं पहले थी वो 10 वर्षों में बहुत कम हुई हैं। विकसित भारत के निर्माण में जब हम आर्थिक विकास की प्रगति की बात करते हैं, उसकी अहम भागीदारी, क्योंकि लगातार जो जीडीपी ग्रोथ है वो इम्प्रूव हुआ है और कोविड के बाद हमने देखा कि तमाम जो सेक्टर्स हैं, खासतौर पर सर्विस सेक्टर, उसमें उल्लेखनीय प्रगति हुई है। साथ ही साथ भारत में अगर हम एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन की बात करें, वो कैसे लगातार सकारात्मक तौर पर आगे बढ़ती हुई, और जब हम इनोवेशन की बात करते हैं, नवाचार की बात करते हैं, उसमें युवाओं की भागीदारी, खास तौर पर रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट के क्षेत्र में युवाओं का आगे आना भारत की आर्थिक प्रगति को बल देता हुआ। सरकार का फोकस जो है वो फिस्कल प्रूडेंस यानी कि वित्तीय अनुशासन पर रहेगा। और भारत के बैंकों की अगर हम बात करें, जब सरकार आई उस वक्त एनपीए यानी कि नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट्स और विलफुल डिफॉल्टर्स से बैंकिंग जूझ रहा था। लेकिन अब आप देखिए, जो बैंकिंग सेक्टर है, जो फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर की रीढ़ माना जाता है, उसमें सुधारात्मक रिफॉर्म्स किए गए जिसका असर साफ तौर पर देखने को मिलता है। इसलिए क्रेडिट ऑफ टेक होने में ज़्यादा वक्त नहीं लगा। और ग्लोबल साउथ की आवाज़ की जब हम बात कर रहे हैं, जहां भारत एक अग्रणी देश बनकर खड़ा है, कैसे वो सेतु की तरह काम करेगा, जो 150 से ज़्यादा शिक्षाविद, नीति निर्माता यहाँ पहुंचे हुए हैं। ये तो वित्त मंत्री साहिबा का संबोधन था, लेकिन शाम में प्रधानमंत्री भी इस कार्यक्रम में शिरकत करने के लिए पहुंचेंगे। इकोनॉमी टुडे में अभी खबरों का सिलसिला जारी रहेगा। वक्त लेकिन एक छोटे से ब्रेक का है।